Hi everyone, at long last, we are at Module Review Episode 6. Here's the overview as always. You may have noticed over the last 3 months, they have been slowing down the pace for new modules to 1 archetype per patch. Yes, they have 2 for December, but there are also 4 second modules. My guess is that they are releasing a mini-story in January, which would not have a major update. This was the case for February this year, and I'm predicting no module for January. We'll just have to wait and see. To catch timely updates, you can visit my Google Sheet online, which usually takes about 2 weeks after every patch to update. You can also join my Discord server for more discussions, and don't forget to subscribe. Now, let's get into it. We had Nearl Alter X in September. Abjurers are generally in a very awkward state in the game, which I want to expand a whole video to talk about. But for the module, the base effect gives a very generous boost to the skill healing, making them highly competitive with medics when they can heal, which makes sense, right? Abjurers hardly get anything done with skill orbs, so at least they need to be worth it with the skills. Nearl Alter also gets a big attack attribute from the module 70, making her HPS with skills much higher. The downside and big downside to this module is that it went for her other talent, which is unrelated to providing shelter. This is a big shame since they affect the performance of both skill 2 and 3. So frankly, I would only recommend level 1, but I guess you can go for level 3 for the attribute. Next, we have Chen Y. This module is very bland. However, attack increase is a very welcomed improvement to Sword Masters because they all have skills with high attack scales. Attack scales are calculated after all attack modifiers, so whenever there is an increase to attack stat, it will get amplified by attack scales into big numbers. That's why this module actually does more damage than the last one for every hit. With that said, this is still a very no-brainer stat boost, giving her more numbers to serve as a lane holder, but there are just way too many good candidates for this job, and amongst them, Chen feels very replaceable. Looking at the comparisons, Module X makes her the best attack and defense recovery buffer, which herself also benefits from. Yes, it makes her rely heavily on skills, but it is the skills that matters more. Module Y does higher damage per hit, but the skill comes much slower than X, especially without constantly picking up enemies. So over time, it still falls short because less skills are used. My recommendation, stick to Module X level 3. Next, we have Saga Y. The module does provide some good damage increase, has some synergy with skill 3, but both the base and the upgrades have their trigger conditions. This base effect also does not play with Saga very well because she's the pioneer that can reach far the most. With skill 2 and 3, she very often attacks without blocking enemy. Saga is most known for her spamming skill 2 on low HP enemy swarms like the Vergeists and the Tumors, in which she just one-shots them anyways, so this module really isn't that relevant. Comparison, Module X deals slightly more damage, which no one is expecting from her, and has questionable synergy with her kit. Module Y, decent base effect, but a rather unimpactful upgrade. So recommendation, Module Y level 1. Next is Horn X. The module gives a stunning 100 attack attribute at level 3, which is very important for Horn because she is the face of Fortress, the most aggressive defender class. Upgrade is a good addition to Defender Knights, but that's about it. First of all, unlike Fiammetta and Schwartz, who have very similar class buff talent, this module does not remove the requirement of having to deploy Horn herself, which the modules for those two did. Second of all, insert the blocked enemy meme here. Intuitively, Fortress would and does spend more time attacking unblocked enemies. Also, unlike Artillery and Centurion, who have the exact same base effect, Fortress naturally loses out on AoE capability when they block and melee, which is making this base effect contradicts with the archetype design itself, more so than Artillery. So either you make it to level 3 for the good defender boost, or not at all. Level 1, not recommended. Speaking of artillery and blocked enemy, we have Fiammetta X. Now, this module includes a good quality of life change to Fiammetta. It stops her from further losing HP at 50.3% to be exact. So, if she's not touched and not healed solely on her own, at least she gets to retain the base Vigor effect. The module also has higher DPS in most situations than Y, barring when she's attacking unblocked enemies with skill 3. But the difference is also very minor. Now, we talked about blocked enemies, but if you know how her skill 2 functions, blocking targets at the right tile is the right way to go, and this module amplifies that damage further. If you are blasting skill 3 into an open space, it does fall short to module Y though. So for the comparisons, Module X has the DPS edge in quite a lot of cases and has the quality of life change to talent, but the improvement depends on the map, the skill you're using, and where you position her. Module Y has the better base effect arguably, but feels separated with the upgrades. The first half mostly meant for skill 2, and the second half mostly meant for skill 3. Not really that worth it. My take is Module X level 3 for frequent user, but Module Y level 1 if you just pick her from time to time, or use skill 3 for AFK Annihilation clears. Next, we have the man himself. The first 6 stars to release with module upgrades available, and the first 6 stars to explore the elusive possibility of a third module. Introducing Ebenholz Δ. Now, I've made a pretty comprehensive video on how the module functions, so I'm going to cut to the chase here. Basically, it deals significantly more damage to targets who stays in its range long enough, and does not have insane high res or damage reduction. That is, if they can survive that long to start with. If you use buffer with Ebenholz, then they will net twice the effect with this module because amplifying arts damage also increases the amount of necrosis damage he can deal. He also have good synergy with ritualists, namely the welfare operator from IS4 or the limited 6-star virtuosa who comes out just a month after this module. The key for this module to be considered good is that it partly makes up for what we criticized about his kit the most, is that after the first charge shot he just auto attacks, not being able to charge again for higher damage. Now, this module also will just do nothing if Ebenholz were never able to cause a necrosis fallout, which is likely due to either high res or damage reduction, or enemies sleeping away from him. Comparing all 3 modules, Module X has the highest initial blast with the extra charge and damage scale. If an enemy is within its one-shot threshold, this is the most efficient choice. Module Y has the sideways playstyle with splash damage or faster charges to maybe play with skill 2. Its problem being not excelling at his main job and not very good with trash killing either. Delta has the highest damage potential, works with different combos well, and deals mixed damage. Still, he needs to tackle with resistance when trying to trigger necrosis fallout on his own, but considering different use scenarios, I'd say Delta would dominate in a lot of cases. So, at this point in time, my recommendation would be Delta, level 3 for general use, or Module X level 1 when you can one-shot just fine. Next, we have Mudrock X. I know a lot of you have been asking for the showcase of this module, but what I want to do here is to analyze why some of you may have overestimated this module. The key improvement to Mudrock in this module is the HP related buffs. Max HP, recovery via shield break, etc. basically makes Mudrock recover more health every time she's able to. Base effect allows her to stay alive in between shields, and it stacks with her other talent as well. Now, for the 2 SP recovery from shield breaks, it is a great addition when she's dueling with elite enemy. The biggest problem with this upgrade is that these SP gains do not bypass her SP lockout. Many of you speculate that she would spin more with skill 2. That theoretically is true, but in practice, it is much less effective than it seems on paper. So let's take a look at the analysis. First, skill 2. This is a defense recovery skill, meaning that on a shield break hit, Mudrock actually gains 3 SP, and skill 2 only needs 4. So if you look at the cases below, 3/5 of the time, there will be at least 1 SP go to waste. Every time when Mudrock is spinning with skill 2, she enters a SP lockout phase with fixed duration. On the other hand, the rate of which Mudrock gains SP is based on how often she's hit. So the more frequent she's being attacked, the actual time this 3/5 of the cases take up will go higher, like this. So the conclusion is, the faster she gets hit, the less significant the upgrades become. Now for skill 3, it cuts 2 seconds from skill 3 startup, which is okay. In most ideal scenario, Mudrock exits skill 3 with a full shield, proceed to break all of them for 6 SP, and then she can get skill 3 back the next moment after 17 seconds. In worst scenario, she lost all 3 shields right before skill 3 ends, so all of them go to waste. The skill comes back at around 21 seconds. So effectively, this is basically a plus 0.19 per second to plus 0.47 per second SP recovery effect. Next, we have Penance X. I have made a video showcasing that. Basically, the module revolves around her barrier mechanism, as max HP, defense increase, and damage reduction are all means to make her barriers more durable. If you'd ever used her, you know how painful it is when she's a few SP off from skill 3 but not being able to survive because she doesn't have enough sustain when initially deployed. But also, you may have experienced how it feels like she has infinite barrier after she's successfully getting that skill 3 up. So this module helped to fill in the weakling in a positive loop, which can be the difference between life or death. Another plus that might be worth mentioning is that the damage reduction from base effect also stacks with the shelter from skill 2, for those of you that use skill 2 out there. Next, Lessing X. I hate to break it to you all, but HG is clearly no longer designing well for a 6-star the way they did with Gladia and Lumen. Dreadnought X is a very crucial attack skill for them. It also multiplies with his skill 3 attack skill, so if he can get some decent attack multipliers, he would be able to deal some big damage. Which is probably the reason why he doesn't get any. He gets a stunning 30 attack attribute with module level 3. In case you don't know, Matoi Maru gets 55 with her module. The talent upgrade is also very laughable. Good luck getting what Scotty has without having to take damage and can share with her allies. Overall, level 1 is the furthest I would recommend. Speaking of Dreadnoughts, Nearl Alter Y. It feels like the upgrades are designed to serve for the base effect, which is kind of weird, but it does have application for both skill 2 and 3. If Revival is triggered, it will have higher DPS than Module X, especially when dealing true damage with skill 3. Problem here is that it's too dependent on Revival. If you don't die to start with, you don't get much. Unlike Scotty though, the stun on second life ensures that she can at least squeeze in a couple more hits before getting defeated again, but that also makes her weak against those who are immune to stun. So for X versus Y, X is very straightforward, excellent base effect, great match with her signature skill 2. Upgrades are for extreme situations, but when skill 3 is dealing true damage, it becomes irrelevant. Y, on the other hand, basically has a higher ceiling, but also a lower floor. If she revives, she deals big amount of damage, so when she doesn't, it's not gonna be anywhere impactful. So this one is more dependent on the context, so for general purposes, I would still recommend Module X level 1. Wrapping things up, let's take a look at Bagpipe Y. This is just all-in damage, and for that purpose, it deals more damage than Module X anytime. If you play Vanguard Knights, then she has the best DPH you can expect from the Vanguard. The problem is also pretty simple. It just doesn't matter much anymore whether you deploy Bagpipe or not. Maybe she's there to kill that one mob you miss when your flag bearers or agents are working somewhere else, then retreated and never deployed again. Currently, she's picked more like an accessory to the Vanguard class, solely for her talent. So if we look into the comparisons, clearly Module X served that role much better. She doesn't need to kill everyone, just that 1 or 2 mob from time to time and retreat for a full refund. Y has a good damage boost, but at the end of the day, more damage is welcomed, but not mandatory from Bagpipe. My recommendation, Module X level 1 if you seldom deploy her anymore, or level 3 if you still do that a little bit more often. For the rating updates in this episode, it's also simple. I adjusted the rating for both Ebenholz's earlier modules so that it reflects the overall recommendation of Delta over X over Y. He's gone through a lot, at least from me, hasn't he? Also, I increased Dorothy Y's priority rating from A to A+ because I do think this module is great improvement to using her, and that should address it well enough. That will do it for this episode. Thank you for sticking around for the content. I appreciate all your support, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.